Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of Pride Month exploring LGBTQ artists. Today we're going to be checking out the group Christine and the Queens. And much like many of the artists we've checked out this week, I've never heard of this group, much less do I have any expectation for what kind of music I'm about to be in store for. So that's actually another great thing about this week too, is getting to be exposed to more artists and some stuff that exists a bit more on the fringe, at least as far as my musical radar is. The song we're going to check out today is called Tilted. Looks like it's about a decade old here. The video came out back in 2015. Let's dive into this, see what Christine and the Queens is bringing to the table today. So because of the, it's actually a delayed rhythmic introduction to the note as well, but it also swells into it. It's an interesting feeling of being out of time.
So I'll fight sleep with ammonia. And every morning we fight so red. I miss them.
So we have that percussion accent on 2 and 4.
But I'm actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually good. Can't help it if we.
Very rhythmic vocal delivery on this as well.
Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually good. Can't help it.
It's creating a bit of the groove against that standard drum beat going on, while also giving us the melodic elements as well.
I miss brothels and mended souls. Trample over beauty while singing their thoughts. I match them with my euphoria. When they said je suis plus fort que toi. But I'm actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually good. Can't help it if we. I am actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually good.
That 8th note synth rising and falling in volume and pitch simultaneously.
Pire qu'une simple moitié, on compte à demi-demi. Pile sur un des bas-côtés comme des origamis. Le bras tendu pareil cassé, tout n'est qu'épié et éclit. Ces enfants bizarres, crachés dehors comme par hasard, cachant l'effort dans le griffoir. Et une creepy song en étendard qui fait
I'm doing my face with a magic marker. I'm in my right place. Don't be a downer.
The vocal ad-libs are interesting too because there's a lot of volume to them compared to everything else.
I am actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I am actually good. Can't help it if we. I am actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I'm good.
This swelled synth actually sounds really good here. It's possible that due to all of the other polyrhythmic elements happening, that it's slightly delayed attacks and gradual build-in kind of works in that context. There's so much rhythmic stuff going on anyways, it doesn't feel out of place anymore. Yeah, This is this is a neat little track, and there's a lot of cool things going on in it, despite the more minimalistic atmosphere that I think it carries through most of itself. The first thing I do want to touch on though is that synth from the beginning. The rhythm of those three notes is a bit obtuse. It took me even a little bit to catch on to it. At first, I was coming in just a hair bit early on my anticipation of that third note, but eventually I even figured out that I was just a slight bit early on where I thought the second note was starting too. They're all just a hair bit behind my expectations for the rhythm that you would normally play that's close to that. Against the simple backbeat on the digital percussion here, which is mostly quarter notes on a hi-hat like instrument and then the snare on 2 and 4. This synth feels really out of place. It's completely out of step with this backbeat. And the backbeat is so rigid. I mean, you have just a very physical point of when the note begins, and that's it. And that's so different from the synth that slides in both on volume and on sort of like where the attack is. It swells into itself, usually with an attack. In a lot of modern music, the attack is the beginning. It's the most important part. The loudest part is going to be the start of the note. And here the loudest part is way past the attack. And so it's this differentiation here where the attack isn't the strongest and there's a volume pull up from it too. And just generally speaking, it's difficult to find the place where you should bob your head along to the synth here, but it isn't on the drums. And the division between these two creates a really stark schism rhythmically in the beginning of the song, even throughout the entire first verse with primarily just the vocals and a couple of ornamental ideas. I still felt that synth was out of place. It worked. It didn't destroy the song. It didn't disrupt it in any way. It just felt awkward, I think would be the way that I would put it. But by the end of the song, when we have 3 vocal lines going and 2 rhythmic devices happening, and then also this synth swell, yeah, it kind of works there. The rhythmic element is completely obfuscated and you're left with just the textural element of it. You really don't need to focus too much on the rhythm because there's so much other rhythmic information that your brain just kind of discards the odd rhythmic things going on with it. And the fact that the swell in, most of it is kind of indiscernible because of everything that's happening now. You don't really hear the swell in as much as just when the synth is present. And I think that it changes it. It changes our perception of it. What's actually being played isn't altered at all, but the way it's perceived is. And I think this is really interesting. I don't know if the song is going to go for this direction at all, but I really like this theme here that I'm reading into, and I might be just reading too far into, about something that feels out of place in one context, but not another. No different than beachwear looks fine when you're at a swimming pool or something, but it's out of place at the 9 to 5 office that you work at. So, we can extrapolate this even further to elements of our life that maybe we're kind of weird in most public settings, but within our friend group, everything just works, everything clicks. You don't need to change who you are, you just need to change your environment. I have no idea if the song's going to go in that direction. The title is called Tilted. I don't really get a lot of information from that. So, but I do like this idea of really focusing on this synth, and it's prevalent. I don't think that synth line ever quits on this song. Maybe a little bit in the bridge. I was focusing real heavy on the vocal delivery there and the spoken word and the whisperiness of it. I can't actually remember if the synth was present there, but to bring it back at the end, maybe it is only just that part that it isn't, if it isn't anywhere. But to have it through majority of this track and slowly find a place where it just works and it fits better and there's no attention drawn to it and it's not out of place anymore. I really like that narrative storytelling here. in the artistic side of things. Now, I mentioned that rhythmically, that's kind of interesting against the drums, but the drums are super simple, very standard. This is actually where the vocals come in. The vocals have melodic flow to them. There's specific pitches being used. There's phrasing when you sing and when you don't sing, places to breathe and places for melodic phrases to stop so that you have this nice concept of an idea, and then you rest, and then you start a new one and you rest there, and it creates these nice spurts for this melodic movement. But I think what's really important about the vocals on this is that there aren't a lot of long held out notes. A lot of the vocal delivery is very rhythmically charged. And when you listen to it not in contrast, but in relationship to the drum beat, you're going to find a lot of syncopation in there, especially where they choose to accent places and when they choose not to. It turns the vocals into a rhythmic device, which I think is really important for something like this. You can have that pretty standard drum beat in the background and still create something very dancey based around it. But in my opinion, especially when it comes to pop adjacent music, if you want something that is groovy and danceable, you're gonna want syncopation in there as well. And I think that's where the vocals come in. They create that syncopation. They're not just the main instrument that most ears are going to gravitate towards because one, they're singing. There's words there to latch onto. Two, there's melody. Three, the production is making it a bit more prevalent than everything else. But in this case, additionally, that's where the more interesting rhythmic ideas are coming from too. And I guess on like a tertiary area, this is also where our harmonic information is coming from. There aren't a lot of chords being played through the song. So our idea of what the emotion is of the track and what kind of atmosphere we're looking at is mostly going to be by collectively hearing all of the notes and addressing that information. If these are all the notes in the chord, what kind of chord are we looking at here? And when the notes change in the melody, that's going to indicate or imply a harmonic shift, a chordal change there. And we can find our chord progression through the melody. Now, we do have some harmonic work on the outskirts of the song, but it's kind of muted and secondary compared to the information we can hear in the vocal lines. So the vocals are kind of capturing all three elements here, rhythm, harmony, and melody. And that's interesting too. That's a lot of weight being put on the vocals to carry this song. Everything else feels secondary to it. I just read, man, dude, sometimes, I just let my mouth run. I let my brain do its thinking in real time. And I come to some interesting conclusions. I did not pick up on the fact that it was doing all three during the reaction. When we get to the bridge, though, we kind of remove all of the ornamental ideas. We cut back on even some of the more rhythmic ideas. It's a vast simplification into hyper minimalism. There's only one or two instruments here in the bridge, and one of them is the vocals. And we've kind of removed the melodic and harmonic element of that, as it's sort of a whispery spoken word kind of thing. We've stripped the song down to its base principle of rhythm, and that's it. Coming out of this, we build back up into the chorus, and we do that by adding more and more vocal layers. A little bit of call and response, a little bit of hocket, a little bit of polyrhythm, and then eventually full on counterpoint. What I really like about this is that the ending of the song is when the music is the most complex, the most dense, especially rhythmically. This song is hyper focused on rhythmic elements here. I mean, even from the start, the three instruments that are present at the beginning of the song, the first thing I talked about them was their rhythmic relationship to each other. And so for the song to end on such a rhythmic high with so much complexity, so many different moving parts, so many different polyrhythms going on, I don't think that's a mistake. And so I also don't think it's a mistake that the or I should, instead of mistake, let's say coincidence. I also don't think it's a coincidence that the buildup from the bridge into that final chorus is a rhythmic buildup either. We do have some harmonic information in there. We have general chord progressions, particularly from the vocal ad-libs. But for the most part, what I hear is one set of rhythms and another interjecting around and between it. It's what builds a lot of the anticipation into that final moment. So what we've done is we've stripped the song down to its base so that we have something to contrast against. Because honestly, in the grand scheme of music, the outro of this song isn't really intense. It's not something that I would ever rate as like, a 10 intensity, a 10 volume, a 10 complexity. It feels rather muted, but within its own world, if you just explore from start to finish and don't take into account any other music out there, not even on the same album, the ending is bombastic. It's massive. To really sell that, though, we need to bring it down. And so we have something to we're basically dropping it down to like a 0 or 1. So when we come back up and we hit these new peaks, it's like, dang, dude, that's massive. That's a huge change. I think it's a really smart way to build out the pacing and phrasing of this track, and allow the final moments to be elevated. I'll be completely honest, I found this song to be interesting enough to listen to. I don't think I was bored during it, but it wasn't something that grabbed my attention in a way that made me want to listen to more or to return to it in any way. I felt like the one listen was enough. However, this bridge into the final chorus has me intrigued. The multiple vocal layers, the interlocking rhythmic elements, the finding a place finally for this swelling synth sound, everything kind of clicking into place here at the end makes some of the more the less interesting choices throughout the song make sense as setups or foreshadowing that would get us from there to the ending. One of my favorite things that one of my college professors told me in a composition course, I had almost trashed a project I was working on. It was the assignment was to write an orchestral piece for 64 instruments, and I had put a ton of work into it, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I really like this part towards the end, but I don't know, the build-up's just not there. And he told me not every part of a song needs to be interesting. It just needs to get somewhere interesting. Sometimes the journey is what makes it compelling. And I think that's what happens here. In the moment, there's not a lot of, like I said, things that keep me interested. It is a fine song in the first minute, minute and a half, something like that. But it's the foundation that's necessary to make the ending as compelling as it is. It is part of the journey, and not all parts of the journey are interesting, but they are required to get to the end. And this, seeing how things get set up, seeing all the dominoes get put in order and then knocked down to create this beautiful ending. That's a weird metaphor, but stick with me. It has me interested to see what else Christine and the Queens has done and to explore more of their music. Because while this might not be my favorite song from them, it may never be my favorite song from them, it does showcase a lot of intentionality to the composition and a lot of forethought to ideas to make sure that they pay off towards the end. And that will always catch my attention, even if the product itself doesn't always do that. Let me hit some lyrics on this, see what's going on with this track, and then we're going to wrap this one up. All right, the lyrics are, well, much like the music, it's a bit on the minimal side. There's not a lot of lyrics. We have 8 lines in total for the verses, 1 sentence for the chorus that we end up hearing 16 times or so, and then the linear spoken word stuff in the bridge. That's actually where a meat of the lyrics are. We'll get there in a moment, though. The chorus simply states, "But I'm actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted." Now, tilted isn't really expanded upon, and I can't really use context clues to figure out if it's supposed to be positive or negative. When I think of tilted, I think of someone who is upset and making poor decisions based on their emotional state, but tilted could also just mean a little different, no longer straight. Maybe it is just about being different, which there is a little bit of context clues for that. During the bridge says these weird kids spat out as if by chance, hiding their effort in the scratching post and a standard creepy song. So we do have the idea of weird kids just being a little bit outside of the norm, which I did mention kind of lines up with some of the themes I felt in the music, particularly with the synthesizer. But I don't really get much of that from the verse. It's really one line in the bridge that I can kind of go with. So I don't actually know what the chorus is about, but the use of the line actually, I'm actually good. Can't help it if we're tilted. I don't know. You can take that at face value. I kind of want to go back to the song and hear how it's delivered, but my millennial brain says that this is just masking. Not actually good, but just saying you are. Because if you were, you would say I'm good. You say I'm actually good? I don't know. I'm going to read into that. So maybe this whole thing of, we're all a little odd and I'm trying to be the best I can. Maybe that's what the chorus is, trying to make things better. The verse says, "I'll die way before Methuselah, so I'll fight sleep with ammonia. And every morning with eyes all red, I'll miss them for all the tears they shed." So Methuselah is, according to the Hebrew Bible, um, a man who was reported to have lived the longest at the age of 969. Yeah, I'm not believing that, but at least that's the myth of Methuselah. So she says, I'll die way before him. Yeah, for sure. No one's living to 1,000. Says, so I'll fight sleep with ammonia. So it says, my life is short, so I'll fight sleep. And every morning with eyes all red, I'll miss them for all the tears they shed. I don't know, who's the they? Who's the them? Why are the eyes red? Is it red from a lack of sleep? Is it red from crying? Is it red from stress or drug use? Is it red from the ammonia? I don't know. But for whatever reason, she's left some people behind and it appears that she misses them. And she's going to live every moment the most she can because life is short and she misses the people from her past. I think that's what this verse is saying. Verse 2 says, I miss prosthesis. That's it. I miss prosthesis and mended soles. Trample over beauty while singing their thoughts. I match them with my euphoria when they said, I'm not going to try to pronounce this because my French pronunciation is terrible, but it translates to I'm crazier than you. So some people said in her past, they said this, that they're crazier than her, and she matches them with her euphoria. She's excited to be around these people. They trample over beauty while singing their thoughts. So they are themselves. They are their authentic selves. They may not be what is palatable in general society, but they are who they are, and she finds that a positive trait to have. She says that she misses them, I suppose. So that's it. Once again, people in her past that she's moved away from, that she misses. The first verse was about the same thing there. And this is why when she says, but I'm actually good in the chorus, I think it's actually the opposite. She's trying to live her life the best she can, but there's so many people in her past that she wishes that she could see again, and she can't. But then comes the bridge, which is once again in French. I'm not reading the French. It translates to us and the man are out there. Worse than just a half, we add up to a half. Pile up on the edge like origami, the outstretched arm looks broken, everything is just tilted and splintered. I don't know. This one's just a hair bit too cryptic for me. Now, I mentioned that there's a second part of this that translates to weird kids spat out as if by chance, hiding their efforts, and a standard creepy song. It says in the standard creepy song goes like this, shifting to English, I'm doing my face with magic marker, I'm in my right place, don't be a downer. So this goes along with the idea of being your authentic self, even if it's a bit odd or weird. You normally don't put makeup on with magic marker, but she says this is where I like to be. This is where I'm meant to be. This is my right place. Don't bring me down from here just because I'm a little different than society says I should be. And I think that maybe this also pushes to the idea that Tilted is about just being a little different. But what's interesting is that she did do an interview with Time Magazine, and she mentions that she was trying to find a line that is both weird and disturbing or freaky at the same time. This was actually an English version of a French song that she had done previously. And she wanted a way to translate her original thoughts of fun, but also kind of creepy makeup kind of stuff. And she landed on magic marker. And I don't quite think that is really weird. I mean, it's not usual, I'd say, but creepy? I don't know. So I got really curious, and we're going to dive a little deeper here. The original song is just called Christine. And I went and found the original line, and it was actually, I'm going to put my makeup on with mercurochrome. And I had to look this up because I don't know what mercurochrome is, but apparently this was some sort of antiseptic liquid that people had in the 70s and 80s. And they would put it on cuts in order to heal them and ensure that a scar, or not ensure, but reduce the likelihood of a scar showing up. And it was like 20-30% alcohol and mercury, which is where the name comes from, mercurochrome. And apparently they were also colored with dyes or something like that. You can get them in different colors. And so putting your makeup on with this healing thing, even though, I mean, it's mercury, right? This stuff got discontinued. Like I said, 70s and 80s, we don't really have it too much anymore, which actually is a good reason to update it when she changed the translation from French to English. I don't think that would have translated too well. I don't know when mercurochrome was, when it stopped having popularity in France, but like I said, in the US, we ditched it several decades ago. But I really like this idea though of doing your makeup with a healing liquid, of healing emotional scars by making yourself look better on the outside and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so that's kind of cool, but like putting your face on with magic marker, I don't really think that translated too well. And I wonder if there might have been a better, I mean, I'm not a great poet. I'm not going to say I have a better, a fix for this up my sleeve. I don't. But I wonder if there was a better way to translate this and to bring it to an English audience than this, which I think loses some of that idea of using an antiseptic to do your makeup, which I think has a lot of depth to it, where the magic marker line doesn't. But yeah, so this song, though, is generally about being a little odd or weird, and that's where you are. Find people, surround yourself with that so that you don't stick out. Find people who are like you and you can build each other up. That's what the song's about. And so I didn't think that my initial read on the synthesizer at the beginning of the song was actually going to tie into this at all, but I think it does really well. So that's pretty cool. And I'm a huge fan for thematic synergy between music and lyrics. So yeah, interesting track. start to finish on this one. I'm kind of more intrigued about them now, having read the lyrics. Definitely have to check out more of their stuff. But those are just my thoughts on Christine and the Queen's Tilted. What did you think of this song? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own thoughts, opinions, perspectives, interpretations of this. Please put all of that and any other thoughts you have down into the comments section. Above the comment section in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for this one. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.